I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd freeze her own parents' bank accounts. I never imagined standing in a courtroom while my mother sobbed and called me heartless. And I definitely never believed I'd use a legal loophole crafted by a lawyer I found on Reddit to take back every single dollar they stole from me, and then some. But here I am. And if you've ever been used, erased, or treated like an ATM by the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally, this story is for you. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29, I live in Portland, Oregon, and for most of my life, I was the responsible one, the daughter who showed up, who fixed things, who never caused trouble, the one my parents leaned on, until they didn't need me anymore. Let me take you back to where it all began to unravel, the cruise that broke me. It was a Tuesday in March when my mom called me, voice trembling with that fake excitement she only used when she wanted something. Honey, your dad and we've been talking. We're getting older, you know, and we've never seen the Mediterranean. Not really. Just those quick layovers when your father had business in Rome. I was standing in my tiny studio apartment, eating ramen straight from the pot because I couldn't afford groceries that week. Rent was due in 3 days, and I was already behind on my student loans. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I said, "That sounds amazing, Mom. You deserve it." She paused. Then softly, "We were thinking, maybe you could help us out? Just a little? We've got most of it saved, but the cruise line just raised the price. It's $8,500 now for the two of us. $8,500. I blinked. My entire savings account had planned $200 in it. I made $38,000 a year as a graphic designer, after rent, utilities, and student loan payments. I had about $120 left over each month, but I didn't hesitate. "Of course," I said. "Yeah, I'll figure it out." Because that's what I always did. Be the good daughter. Be the reliable one. Be the one who never says no. Over the next 6 weeks, I sold everything I could. My grandmother's silver necklace, $600 on Facebook Marketplace. My vintage camera collection, $1,100 to a collector in Seattle. I took on 3 freelance gigs, working until 3 a.m. most nights. I even skipped my annual dentist appointment because I couldn't afford the copay. And then, I did the unthinkable. I took out a personal loan. $7,500, 18% interest, 5-year term. I told no one, not my best friend, not my therapist, not even my cat Luna, who watched me cry into my pillow every night. But I booked that cruise, Mediterranean luxury escape, 14 days. Ports in Barcelona, Monaco, Santorini, Dubrovnik, Balcony Suite, champagne welcome, all for my parents. When I handed them the printed itinerary at Sunday dinner, my mom hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. "Oh, Emily, you're such a blessing," she whispered. "Your sister would never do something like this." My sister, Lauren. Ah, yes, Lauren. The golden child. The perfect one. The daughter who lived in a $1.2 million house in Scottsdale, drove a white Range Rover, and posted daily Instagram stories about her blessed life with her surgeon husband and their 2 angelic twins. Lauren hadn't visited our parents in over a year. She'd missed Dad's 65th birthday. She'd sent a $50 gift card to Mom for Mother's Day. But in their eyes, she could do no wrong. Me, I was just there, the backup daughter, the emotional janitor, the one who cleaned up messes. So when Mom said that your sister would never do this, I smiled and said, "I just wanted you to have something beautiful." They left for the cruise 2 weeks later. I waved from the driveway, wearing a borrowed sweater because I'd sold mine. They didn't even notice. The will that changed everything. While they were gone, I got a call from Mrs. Delaney, my parents' elderly neighbor. "Emily, dear, I'm so sorry to bother you, but your father's file cabinet in the garage is leaking water. The pipe burst last night. I tried to move the papers, but some of them got wet." My stomach dropped. Dad kept all his important documents in that cabinet: tax returns, property deeds, insurance policies. "I'll be right over," I said. I drove to their house in my 2012 Honda with 142,000 miles on it. The garage smelled like mildew and motor oil. Water pooled near the back wall, and sure enough, the metal file cabinet was rusted open, papers splayed everywhere. I started sorting through them, laying damp documents on the hood of my car to dry in the sun. Birth certificates, car titles, old Christmas cards. And then a manila envelope labeled, "Last Will and Testament, do not open until death." My hands froze. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew that. But some deep, aching part of me that had been starved for truth made me peel back the flap. Inside was a notarized will dated 6 months ago. I scanned the pages, heart pounding. To our beloved daughter, Lauren Michelle Carter, we bequeath the entirety of our estate, including but not limited to our primary residence at 421 Oak Hollow Lane, all liquid assets in joint savings and investment accounts. Estimated value $198,000. The family cabin in Lake Tahoe, our twin 21 Lexus SUV. To our other daughter, Emily Grace Carter, we leave the sum of $5,000 in recognition of her, not fear. Occasional assistance. I read that line 10 times. 10 times my vision blurred with tears. $5,000. After 29 years of loyalty, after paying for braces, college applications, therapy copays, car repairs, Thanksgiving dinners, hospital visits, birthday cakes, Christmas presents, dog sitting, house sitting, emotional labor, midnight phone calls, canceled plans, missed opportunities, $5,000. And Lauren, she got everything. The house I grew up in, the cabin where I learned to swim, the money my grandparents left them, money I'd always assumed would be split fairly. But the worst part, at the bottom of the will, in my father's neat handwriting, was a note. Emily has always been capable of taking care of herself. Lauren needs stability for the children. I sat on the garage floor and sobbed. Not because of the money, not even because of the favoritism, but because in that moment I realized they never saw me as their child. I was a utility, a convenience, a backup plan. And now that I'd served my purpose funding their dream vacation, I was disposable. The Reddit thread that saved me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, scrolling through our raised by narcissists, our inheritance, our legal advice. I typed a post with shaking hands. Title, parents cut me out of will after I paid 500 shares for their vacation. Gave everything to my sister who hasn't visited in 2 years. Is there any legal recourse? Body, I'm 29. Female, USA. I took out a high-interest loan to send my parents on a luxury cruise, because they deserved it. While they were gone, I found their updated will. They left me $5,000. My sister who lives in a mansion and hasn't called them in. Months gets the house, cabin, cars, and your $200K. They wrote that I'm capable of taking care of myself. I'm devastated. Is there anything I can do? I feel used and erased. Within an hour, replies poured in. Yeah, this is textbook emotional manipulation. They're using you as an emotional ally. Check if they're still alive, because if they are, the will isn't active yet. You have options. Look into undue influence or lack of capacity if they were pressured. But here's the real kicker. If they transferred assets before death to avoid probate, you might still have a claim under fraudulent conveyance or constructive trust. One user, ULawEagle88, sent me a DM. Hey, I'm a trusts and estates attorney in California. What your parents did might be legal, but it's not necessarily enforceable. If you can prove they promised you something in exchange for your financial support and then reneged, you might have a claim for promissory, estoppel, or quantum meruit. Also, if they used your money to fund their lifestyle while disinheriting you, that's borderline elder financial abuse in reverse. Want help? I replied, yes, please. He connected me with a pro bono legal aid network. 2 days later, I had a consultation with Mira Chen, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney who specialized in family asset disputes. She listened to my story without flinching. Then she said, Emily, your parents are still alive. That changes everything. Wills don't control assets that are transferred before death. If they've already moved money or property into your sister's name, we can challenge it.
But how? I asked.
They're allowed to give their stuff to whoever they want, right? Technically, yes, Mira said, but not if it violates prior agreements or if it's done to defraud a dependent. And here's the key. You paid for their vacation with the reasonable expectation that you'd be treated fairly in their estate plan. That's a legal concept called detrimental reliance. She leaned forward, and I have a better idea. The legal trap. Mira's plan was bold, brilliant, and completely legal. Step 1, document everything. I gathered bank statements showing the $7,500 loan, screenshots of texts where mom said, "You're the best daughter, we'll never forget this." Emails where dad wrote, "We're so proud of you, Em. You've always been fair." Step 2, file a notice of claim against their estate even though they were alive. This put a legal marker on their assets, making it harder to transfer them quietly. Step 3, send a formal demand letter not for money, but for a family meeting to discuss equitable distribution. They ignored it. So Mira escalated. She filed a petition for constructive trust in county court. Your Honor, the defendants, my parents, accepted significant financial support from the plaintiff, me, under-implied promises of fair inheritance. Their subsequent disinheritance constitutes unjust enrichment. We request the court impose a constructive trust on the disputed assets to prevent inequitable conduct. In plain English, they took my money under false pretenses. Now they owe me. The court granted an emergency hearing. The family meeting from hell. They called me the night before the hearing. Mom's voice was shrill. Emily, what is this nonsense? A lawsuit? Against your own parents? I didn't sue you, Mom, I said calmly. I filed a petition to protect what's fair. Fair, Dad barked. We gave you life, a roof, an education, and you repay us with lawyers? You gave me $5,000 in your will after. I gave you $8,500, I said. That's not gratitude. That's theft. Silence. Then, we're having a family meeting. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. at the house. Be there. I showed up at 9:55 a.m. Lauren was already there, sipping matcha in the living room, wearing designer athleisure like she was on a photo shoot. OM, she said, not looking up. Still driving that death trap? You really need to upgrade. I didn't answer. My parents sat stiffly on the couch. Did held a folder, probably the will. Mom spoke first. Yes, this has gone too far. We're your family. You're embarrassing us. Am I asked? Or are you embarrassed? That I found out you gave everything to Lauren, while I was eating ramen, so you could sip champagne in Monaco. Lauren rolled her eyes. God, Emily, always the victim. Maybe if you weren't so bitter. Then I smiled and pulled out my phone. I recorded our last 3 conversations, I said, including the one where you said, Emily will always take care of us. She's too soft to fight back. Their faces went pale, but that's not why I'm here, I continued. I opened my email and turned the screen toward them. I just received confirmation from the county clerk. The court has frozen all joint assets pending the outcome of my petition. That includes your savings account, investment portfolio, and the deed to this house. Mom gasped. You can't do that? I already did, I said. And here's the best part. If the court finds in my favor, and they'll order you to repay me not just the $8,500, but all legal fees, emotional damages, and a proportional share of the estate, which, based on current valuations, is about $135,000. Lauren stood up. You're insane. We'll fight this. Go ahead, I said.
But remember, every text, every email,
every dollar you've taken while ignoring me. It's all evidence now. I walked to the door, then turned. Oh, and Lauren, that Lexus SUV Dad signed over to you last month? It's listed as a fraudulent transfer. The DMV just flagged it. You might want to park it before it gets repossessed. I left, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. The settlement. The court ruled in my favor 3 weeks later, not because my parents were evil, but because the law protects people from unjust enrichment even when the people doing the enriching are your own family. They settled out of court to avoid a public trial. Terms, $100,000 paid to me within 30 days. Full ownership of the Lake Tahoe cabin, which I later sold for $220,000. Removal of the $5,000 clause from their will. Written apology, which I framed and hung in my office. They never apologized in person. Lauren blocked me on everything. My mom sent one email. We didn't mean to hurt you. But I didn't need their remorse. I needed justice. And I got it. What I did with the money. I paid off my loan. I bought a small house, nothing fancy, but mine. I started a scholarship for estranged adult children rebuilding their lives. And every year I donate to a legal aid nonprofit that helps people like me, because no one should have to choose between their dignity and their family. If you're watching this and you've been used, ignored, or erased by the people who were supposed to love you, know this. You are not an ATM. You are not a backup plan. You are not too soft. You are worthy of fairness, of respect, of inheritance, emotional and financial. And if they won't give it to you willingly, take it back, legally, quietly, powerfully, because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't screaming, it's silence, followed by a court order.